Hello and welcome to my channel. There's an important piece of information that is very widely known. And you can easily find this information, or these facts, by doing a simple search on the internet. And it's called Hemisphere-Specific Views of the Moon by Latitude. It is a well-known fact that you can determine your rough position on the planet or globe north or south by looking at the orientation of the moon. Now, like when the moon is in a crescent, it is very easy to determine that because you have what's called the terminator line, which is the line that separates the light and the shadow of the moon face. Now, as I said, that is very well documented throughout human history. It's very undeniable. Now, what that means is, if you were to get on a plane at the North Pole and fly south, what you would see the orientation of the moon or the terminator line move as you travel south. It would rotate. Now, when you're at the North Pole, the terminator line will be completely vertical. As you move south towards the equator, that terminator line will be completely horizontal at the equator. As you continue to move south, that line will continue in a motion and will become vertical again. But instead of say it's a waxing moon at the North Pole, which would mean the light would be visible on the right side of the moon and the shadow will be on the left. When you're at the equator, the lit part of the moon will be on the bottom and the shadow will be on the top. Now, when you're at the South Pole, the left side of the moon will be lit and the right side will be shadow in a waxing moon. It is well known that in the northern hemisphere, we see the moon in a waxing moon, the right side is lit. When you're down in the southern hemisphere, say near the North Pole or South Pole, the left side of the moon will be lit. Well known, documented, no denying it, fact. So here I'm going to show my video here that I recorded. What we're seeing here is the moon is almost horizontal. There we go. You can see that the right side, well, if the moon was in the correct orientation, well, as we see the moon here, that is telling me I am near the equator because it isn't completely horizontal. Trying to get it to that. All right. So, well-known fact, the moon is telling me I'm near the equator somewhere. Now, what we also have is I captured Venus and Jupiter. Venus is in the middle, Jupiter is on top. How could that be? How could it be in a vertical orientation like this? The only way this would be normal if I was near the equator, but I'm not. I am thousands and thousands of miles north of the equator in Virginia in the United States. East Coast, if you aren't familiar with where Virginia is, you can look it up. So, again, how is this possible? How could I be seeing this orientation in Virginia? Now, before 2010, this never would have happened in Virginia. It would have to be physically near the equator to see this. And that would be normal near the equator. Sure, no problem with that. But I'm not there. Now, let's just go. I recorded this as well. Here we have the moon. And of course, Neptune's there, but that's not visible when we see Venus and Jupiter, as you saw in the other part of the video. And there's the sun because it's below the horizon, and Saturn and Mercury and Pluto, showing the ecliptic plane. Now, the ecliptic plane is that dashed line that is near vertical. The ecliptic plane is where all the planets in our solar system ride on. That's where they travel. It's a horizontal plane that the planets orbit the sun around. Well-known fact, documented. I don't care if you want to throw in your beliefs of flat earth and all this other crap. It's just not true. Your beliefs are your beliefs. I stick to facts. Now, from where I am physically standing, I should never see this. Never, ever, ever. Unless I went to the equator. Okay? So, there are many people on the internet that will try to tell you, well, this is normal, or it's field rotation, or a cyclic angle, or something like that. I don't remember. I don't know. Wages World tried to bullshit me with some asymmetrical angle thing that it was so fucking confusing. It had nothing to do with the fucking moon. It sounded like it was how to determine the angle between 2 points on a sphere, which does not explain how the moon should behave. The moon should behave. It should rise and set in the exact same orientation no matter where you are on the globe. It should rise and set in the exact same orientation. Now, the only way you could get the moon to do 180 degree rotation from our point of view of Earth was to get on in one night was to get on a plane and travel north to south or south to north. East to west didn't matter. The sailors could observe this on a much slower rate as they travel the oceans north to south. Well-known facts, documented. Millions of websites will back this information. I don't care about the people and the trolls that just want to try and explain it away as field rotation, which is a camera setting, or like others that will say, "Oh, you need to lay on your back to view the moon properly." That's a laugh. A sailor trying to determine his location on the globe by laying on his back. And that'll work real well. Or, like I said, field rotation, which is a camera setting, and you have to have an mount to correct everything. Well, how do I attach that mount to my neck? How do I correct that? If that's so normal, how would I correct that with my neck? How do I input that data? Well, it's just not true. Because we have necks and feet, we can physically move. We're not a telescope or a camera that needs assistance to keep the object they're trying to focus on with their equipment in the field of view. That's all that does. An equatorial mount, that's all it does. It tracks an object to keep it in the field of view for you so that you can record video or take pictures of it as the Earth is rotating on its axis, therefore causing the object out in space to move. So there are many excuses that people try to give, and they're just not true. Look on the internet, choose your favorite search engine. It's very simple. And just type in hemisphere-specific views of the moon by latitude. You'll learn all about that. And you'll learn that fact alone destroys or debunks every excuse given. Because the moon will tell you where you are on the globe, roughly north to south, by just looking at it. And what I've shown you here, that we are looking, the moon is telling me, based on the known facts, that I am somewhere near the equator. So, how could that be? How could the moon tell me I'm near the equator, but yet I'm not? How could the moon... Now, what we are seeing with the moon is, since 2010, we're seeing the moon do a 180-degree roll every night that's visible to us from here on Earth. How could that happen? Well, the only way is the tilt of the Earth has changed. Our perception of the moon has changed. Because I know I've worked outdoors my whole life, and I was always curious. I used to have telescopes. I love the solar system. I love space. So I knew enough. And I always knew that the moon always rise and set in the exact same orientation. Yep, since 2010, that's not the case. We are now seeing the moon, and in this case, I mean, even the ecliptic plane is now, at least from the northern hemisphere, what we're seeing is the moon, the face of the moon is doing a clockwise rotation at 15 degrees an hour. If you're in the southern hemisphere, say Australia, you are seeing the moon doing a counterclockwise rotation at 15 degrees an hour. If my understanding, if you're near the equator, is it stays fairly steady, and then in about a 4-hour period, it's doing the quick flip 180 degrees. Now, I've people send me videos and timestamp videos and pictures showing that, so that's how I know what the behavior is. Which is, the moon should never be doing that. The moon should rise and set in the exact same orientation. I shouldn't be seeing the moon rise like a waxing moon in the northern hemisphere with the right side lit, left side dark. And then as halfway through the night, the bottom, the lit part is now on the bottom, the terminator line is now horizontal, and the light and shadow is up on the top. Well, that should only happen near the equator. And then later on tonight, it'll be like the left side is lit and the right side is dark, like I'm somewhere in the southern hemisphere or a waning moon. So some of us talk about wax to wane. It just means the light didn't change. It just means our perception of the moon has changed, where it has rotated 180 degrees to where the right side's lit, and then throughout the night the bottom's lit, and then over there for some reason the left side of the moon is lit. Well, the moon should rise and set in the exact same orientation. So we've got a major problem going on here. And for some reason, there's just so many people, quite a few people, that want to tell you that's normal, or you're crazy for thinking that. But then if you look at the facts on the internet, and it's well documented, every authoritative site, none of those sites explain that it should do that. They all explain what it should do and what it's done for thousands of years. And yet, now, since 2010, we're seeing this 15-degree rotation every hour. And it's just mind-blowing that the moon is telling me I'm going from Virginia to the equator to Australia all in the same night, even though I didn't go anywhere. So, if you're confused on this, I suggest you, like I suggested earlier, search hemisphere-specific views of the moon by latitude. And you can learn all about that. And it'll tell you about how the moon is upside down for Australians at the same time as where we're looking, people in America are seeing it 180 degrees for it. That's a well-known documented fact. And you can take a camera and a ball and you could put a picture of the moon up somewhere and you can replicate those facts of how, since we live on a globe, you can replicate the facts about the moon. And you can see, like I said, if you jumped on a plane, you would see the exact same thing. Well, now you don't have to jump. That was the only way you could see the moon do a cartwheel, was to jump on a plane and fly north to south or south to north. It doesn't matter. That'll just determine which way it turns. That was the only way you could see the moon do that. Now you can sit on your front porch from anywhere on the globe and watch the moon do a cartwheel or roll like a tire from our point of view here on Earth. And I have made videos on this. I've made videos explaining hemisphere-specific views by latitude, demonstrated it, shown websites galore about the thing. We've talked about wax and wane. I've shown it all. So it's the evidence is right in front of you that things have changed. You need to, if you're confused about that, you need to take my suggestion and do some searching around, and you will see. And everything I'm saying will be backed. It's not my opinion. I'm not giving you a bunch of crap. The proof's in the pudding. All right, so obviously I'm going to get some comments. Every time I talk about the moon, I get some person who wants to say I'm dumb or argue or, come up with some excuse like field rotation or acyclic angle or whatever it is, or it's field rotation again, or I need an equatorial mount. I need to lay on my back. No, sorry. We can view the moon with our eyes. I don't need a telescope. I don't need equipment. Just all you got to do is go out there, stand on your 2 feet, and observe this yourself. Now, what you're going to see, where we're at since we're in a waxing crescent right now, the moon is going to be visible during the day, which is a great time for, like, if you only have a camera phone or a smartphone, you can actually take footage of the moon. So probably want to wait another day or two to where we farther away from the sun from our point of view, and you'll be able to see this yourself. So you'll check your weather app and find out when the moon rises, and go out there and look and see how it rises and what orientation it's in. Where's that terminator line, depending, wherever you are, and then go back outside 5 or 6 hours later and look at it again, and you're going to see that the moon is rotated 5 or 6 hours. You're looking at almost about 75, 80 degrees. It's funny, that the most the moon should ever move is due to libration is 7%. Even if it's 10 or 15%. Even if for some reason the moon shifts more than 7% for libration, it should be nowhere near 90 or 180 degrees like we are seeing every time the moon is visible. So put your big boy pants on, do some research if you're confused on the subject. Do the search I gave you specific terms for, and you will see. And, like I said, I captured the moon here, but I still got Jupiter and Venus backing me. From where I live in Virginia, the ecliptic plane should never be near vertical. Never, ever. I would have to be near the equator to see a vertical ecliptic plane. A vertical orientation of Jupiter and Venus and the moon should never happen. In a temperate zone, doesn't matter if it's north or south, a temperate zone on this globe, I should never see that. Especially near a polar region. Equatorial, yes, that would be normal. So, but if you live nowhere near the equator, whether it's north or south, should never ever happen. All right, have a nice day.